You know quite well, deep within you, that there is only a single magic, a single power, a single salvation, and that is called loving. Well, then love your suffering. Do not resist it. Do not flee from it. It is your aversion that hurts, nothing else. Hermann Hesse. In this session, I'll guide you through the key elements of emotional resilience, how self-compassion, mindful awareness, and balanced thinking play vital roles in mastering your emotions. We're going to draw from Kristin Neff's powerful insights on how self-compassion allows us to embrace our perfections. In her book, Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, we'll look at her powerful insights on how self-compassion allows us to embrace our imperfections. We'll explore why treating yourself with kindness in moments of struggle is not a weakness, but the foundation of true strength. Neff teaches us that by accepting our humanity and recognizing that everyone experiences failure and hardship, we can foster resilience from a place of connection and understanding. If you've been following along with my IQ lessons, you know that understanding your emotions is just the first step. And the real power comes from using that awareness to transform how you handle life's toughest moments. So, let's dive deep into the tools and insights that empower you to stand tall, no matter what life throws your way. Chapter 6, Emotional Resilience. Self-compassion is an incredibly powerful tool for dealing with difficult emotions. It can free us from the destructive cycle of emotional reactivity that so often rules our lives. This chapter looks more closely at the ways that self-compassion provides emotional resilience and enhances our well-being. By changing the way we relate to ourselves and our lives, we can find the emotional stability needed to be truly happy. One of the most robust and consistent findings in the research literature is that people who are more self-compassionate tend to be less anxious and less depressed. The relationship is a strong one, with self-compassion explaining 1/3 to 1/2 of the variation found in how anxious or depressed people are. This means that self-compassion is a major protective factor for anxiety and depression. As discussed earlier, self-criticism and feelings of inadequacy are implicated in the experiences of depression and anxiety. When we feel fatally flawed, incapable of handling the challenges life throws our way, we tend to shut down emotionally in response to fear and shame. All we see is doom and gloom, and things go down from there, as our negative mindset colors all our experiences. I like to call this mental state black goo mind. Though sticky and unpleasant, this process is actually quite natural. Research has demonstrated that our brains have negativity bias, meaning we're more sensitive to negative than to positive information. When evaluating others, ourselves, for instance, negative facts are given more weight than positive ones. Think about it. If you glance in a mirror before heading out for a party and see that you have a pimple on your chin, you're not going to notice the fact that your hair looks great, that your outfit is fabulous. All you see is that pimple flashing at you like the red emergency light on top of an ambulance or fire truck. Your sense of how you look for your big evening out will be skewed accordingly. There's a reason for this. In the natural environment, negative information usually signals a threat. If we don't notice that the crocodile lurking in the banks of the river immediately will soon become his lunch. Our brains evolved to be highly sensitive to negative information, so that the fight or flight response could be triggered quickly and easily in the brain's amygdala, meaning that our chances of taking action to ensure our survival would be maximized. Positive information isn't as crucial to immediate survival as it is to long-term survival. Noticing that the river has fresh, clean water is important, especially if you're thirsty or deciding on a place to camp. But there's not the same urgency to act on this data. Thus, our brains give less time and attention to positive than to negative information. As Rick Hanson, the author of The Buddha's Brain, says, our brain is like Velcro for negative experiences, but Teflon for positive ones. We tend to take the positive for granted while focusing on the negative, as if our life depended on it. Once our minds latch onto the negative thoughts, they tend to repeat over and over again, like a broken record player. This process is called rumination, the same word that is used for a cow chewing the cud. It involves a recurrent, intrusive, and uncontrollable style of thinking that can cause both depression and anxiety. Rumination is about negative events in the past. It leads to depression, while rumination about potentially negative events in the future leads to anxiety. This is why depression and anxiety so often go hand in hand. They both stem from the same underlying tendency to ruminate. Research indicates that women are much more likely to ruminate than men, which helps explain why women suffer from depression and anxiety about twice as often as men. Although some of these gender differences may be physiological in origin, culture also plays a role. Because women historically had less power in society than men, they've had less control over what happens to them, and have therefore had to be more vigilant for danger. If you are someone who tends to ruminate, or who suffers from anxiety and depression, it is important that you don't judge yourself for being this way. Remember, rumination on negative thoughts and emotions stems from underlying desire to be safe. Even though these brain patterns may be counterproductive, we can still honor them for trying so diligently to keep us out of the jaws of that crocodile. Also remember that, although some people tend to ruminate more than others, all people have a negativity bias to some extent. It's hardwired in our brains, breaking free of the ties that bind. So how do we release ourselves from this deep-rooted tendency to wallow in black goo? By giving ourselves compassion. Research shows that self-compassionate people tend to experience fewer negative emotions, such as fear, irritability, hostility, or distress, than those who lack self-compassion. These emotions still come up, but they aren't often as frequent, long-lasting, or persistent. This is partly because of self-compassionate people have been found to ruminate much less than those who lack self-compassion. Rumination is often fueled by feelings of fear, shame, and inadequacy. Because self-compassion directly counters these insecurities, it can help unravel the knot of negative rumination as surely as detangling spray. When we hold negative thoughts and feelings in non-judgmental awareness, we are able to pay attention to them by getting stuck like Velcro. When we hold negative thoughts and feelings in non-judgmental awareness, we are able to pay attention to them without getting stuck like Velcro. Mindfulness allows us to see that our negative thoughts and emotions are just that, thoughts and emotions, not necessarily reality. They are therefore given less weight. They are observed, but not necessarily believed. In this way, negative biased thoughts and emotions are allowed to arise and pass away without resistance. This allows us to deal with whatever life brings our way with greater equanimity. A useful method of mindfully relating to our negative emotions is to become aware of them as a physical sensation. This may seem like an unfamiliar concept, but all emotions can be felt in the body. Anger is often experienced as a tight clenching in the jaw or gut. Sadness is heaviness around the eyes. Fear as a gripping sensation in one's throat. The physical manifestation of emotions will be experienced differently by different people and will shift and change over time. But still, they can be tracked in the body if we pay close attention. When we experience our emotions in the physical level, rather than thinking about what's making us so unhappy, it's easier to stay present. It's the difference between noticing tightness in my chest and thinking, I can't believe she said that to me. Who does she think she is? And so on. By staying anchored in our body, we can soothe and comfort ourselves for the pain we're feeling without getting lost in negativity. For some reason, I often wake up about 4 a.m. in a negative, anxious mind state. While I lie there in my bed, my mind swirls with fear and dissatisfaction, focusing in on everything that's wrong in my life. As it happens so regularly, I've learned to envision this mood quite literally as a storm passing in the night. Rather than getting caught up in my thoughts, I try to imagine dark clouds passing overhead, complete with violent lightning and thunder. The lightning represents the agitation in my brain, which is somehow triggered by my sleep cycle. Instead of taking the mood too seriously, I try to ground my awareness in my body. The weight of my body on the bed, the feel of the blanket on top of me, the sensations in my hands and feet. Try to remember in the here and the now, and just watch the storm pass over. Sure enough, I eventually fall back asleep and wake up in a much better mood. This is the power of mindfulness. It allows you to fully experience what's arising in the present moment without being caught by it. And however, mindfulness alone is not enough to avoid getting trapped in depressed and anxious mind states. Try as we may, sometimes our minds just keep getting stuck in negativity. In this case, we need to actively try to soothe ourselves, being kind to ourselves when we experience black goo mind, remembering our inherent interconnectedness, and we start to feel cared for, accepted, secure. Balance the dark energy of negative emotions with the bright energy of love and social connection. These feelings of warmth and safety then deactivate the body's threat system and activate the attachment system, calming down the amygdala and ramping up the production of oxytocin. Fortunately, research shows that oxytocin helps dampen our natural negativity bias. In one study, researchers asked participants to identify the emotions displayed on people's faces in a series of photos. Half were given a nasal spray that contained oxytocin. The other half received a placebo spray, the control group. Volunteers who had received the oxytocin were slower to identify fearful facial expressions in the photos and were less likely to mistake positive facial emotions for negative ones, as compared to with the control group. This means that oxytocin lessens the tendency of our mind to immediately latch onto negative information. Relating to our negative thoughts and emotions with compassion then is a good way to lessen our negativity bias. Compassion stops rumination in its tracks, endangering a hopeful outlook that asks, how can I calm and comfort myself right now? So all in all, the next time you experience a difficult emotion, you want to work with it directly. You need to deal with your difficult emotion in your body. You need to soften it. You need to soothe it and allow it. You need to process the emotion. Normally this takes anywhere around 5 to 20 minutes. And on my Zen Den meditation channel, I've developed some very quick, positive, grounding flow state meditations. So you should not wait any other day to begin this life-changing practice. No matter your age, meditation has the power to transform your mind, your body, your emotions, and your life with just a few minutes a day. And you can practice more and more, whatever you feel comfortable at your level. You will notice a profound effect and impact it has on your overall well-being. If you feel this video was beneficial to you, subscribe to my channel. So click on the video above to access my Positivity Daily Meditations list. And remember, happiness, love, bliss, fulfillment, gratitude. Feel free to leave a comment below on your experiences. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.